Woohoo! I am super pumped for this morning. Today we're going to be talking about kind of like a follow-up to the live on Tuesday when we talked about salary transparency, negotiation, knowing your worth. Now we're going to talk about how to know your worth. We're going to talk about interviewing with confidence, negotiating with confidence, and I'm going to get, I see Kathryn, so I'm going to get Kathryn on here. There we go. And then I'll grab Demi. Hey.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good. Make sure I can get Demi on here too. I love this new feature where you can have multiple people.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Hi, guys.
Hey!
Well, it's poofy this morning.
Y'all look
What's
like
going on?
twins. I've always thought y'all look like sisters.
You have no idea. So we were in the same sorority, and we were always like, "Oh my God, are you guys related?" And then we act the same too. So we have all these like weird things that we do that are very similar. It's kind of funny. That's why we're such good friends, right, Kathryn?
Yeah. Yeah. Life twins.
Life twins.
I absolutely love that. Okay, as people are coming in, since I think people are probably going to come in from like all three of our accounts, I'm going to have people like tell us where they're from. Tell us something about you people who are coming, because we're about to all be friends.
Woohoo.
Let's see. And I'm going to give everyone a quick preface as people are coming in. I'm super excited to have both Demi and Kathryn here. This is mostly like a follow-up to the live we had on Tuesday, which if you watched that was all about salary transparency and knowing your worth, and it got people really pumped, to get what you're worth. And then we got done with that, and I had a lot of people reach out and say, you talked about a few tips and tricks, but I'm still not sure I know exactly what I need to do to know my worth, to negotiate confidently, to interview well. So I was like, I have a couple people that I think could help us out.
That's so sweet.
Perfect.
So I figured we can. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, I think grad school prepares us for a lot of things, but it doesn't prepare us for interviewing and jobs and negotiating. And I think that's something that we all as a community need to get better at, because right now we're kind of underpaid for all the things that we do. And that's my opinion. And I think part of that is we don't really value ourselves as much as we should. And I think that's super, super like important to do when we are negotiating, is to value our knowledge and ourselves. So.
And I feel like sometimes it's hard, right? Because you kind of almost have to objectively do that. And I think that's when I got a lot of questions. They're like, how am I supposed to know? Like, everyone's like, well, yes, we're valuable because we know that SLPs are needed. But they're like, how can I quantify or identify like why I am personally valuable?
That's such a big part of my resumes too, without giving away too much, because my clients pay for these services, but without giving away too much, basically what I do is add all those quantifiable accomplishments and values and skills into those resumes and infuse them with all kinds of powerful knowledge and really true, like subjective and objective accomplishments. So I think part of it is that we need to learn to do that, because the business template resumes are crap for us. They don't really outline what we do. I mean, really. And so I think part of it is that we need to educate ourselves on how to write better resumes. We need to interview better. We need to get more comfortable with negotiating, because it's something that we're just not taught. And I think a lot of business classes put a big emphasis on that. We don't.
Looks like we just got our first question. What if we don't have the experience?
Well, there's a lot of different ways you can make your case. I am actually working on a post right now for CFs and negotiating. And in my research, instead of just talking about maybe years of experience that you don't have, you can talk about the different classes that you took. You can talk about maybe the experiences that you had in your undergrad placement that maybe not everybody got to do. You can also talk about maybe some CEUs that you took throughout grad school. I know that I took classes online and like kind of added some PD in there. Like when I had a client that I was like, I don't know what apraxia is because I hadn't taken that class yet. I took like a little prompt course, like a mini one. You can add that stuff to your resume, and you can add that stuff while you're interviewing and while you're negotiating. So it's not necessarily about years of experience. It's about how you are pushing yourself to be the best that you can be. And that shows the employer a lot more than, oh, I have 10 years of experience, but I haven't taken a single professional development course. Which one are you going to want? You're going to want somebody who's really into that professional development and is into growing.
Yeah, and I also found that, like, going back to my CF year, thinking about those clinical experiences and that we had in undergrad and grad school. I know not everybody has clients in undergrad, but like make sure you count those too, because that's still face-to-face experience you've had with clients, working with teams, you know, collaborating with groups. Like those things are super important in the field. So don't devalue that.
Completely agree. Completely agree. So many times I read resumes and I'm like, you guys, all you put on here was that you had one clinical placement and it's the only one, or it's like 7 pages of like tons of information. So it's like, there's that fine line between giving too much and putting too little, but we need to make sure that we're valuing all of our experiences and our knowledge.
Absolutely. And I love that you're pointing out that we really need to use all of any relevant experience. It may not be, you know, only speech language pathology related, because there are certainly a lot of experiences that we have that are related and still completely pertinent or have given us skills that will make us good clinicians or good assets.
Totally. And I think there's a big difference between undergraduate resumes and graduate school applying to CF resumes. I'm heading into undergraduate season because of everybody applying to grad school. And we just got done with like CF season where everyone is applying for their CFs, and the resumes look so different. And I think people forget that you have to, I will answer your question in 1 second, but you have to actually change your resume from undergrad to graduate school. And to answer, so the question was, do you have to keep your resume to 2 page or to 1 page? No. But big disclaimer, and I'm going to say this loud for the people in the back, you have to make sure that if you're going to have a 2-page resume, every experience has to contribute to some sort of thing differently. So it has to showcase a different skill that you learned. It has to showcase that you learned something new, showcase a new accomplishment. If you start to get repetitive, I'm telling you right now, they're going to rip your resume up into no problem. So keep it to 1 page. If you can't fill those experiences with different new knowledge, or keep it to 2 pages if you can differentiate each experience enough where they can figure out that you learned more than one thing. I don't know. Sorry, that was a weird way to end that question. I started so passionate and then it just like floundered.
That's perfect.
Great.
And having personally watched over some people's shoulders who look at resumes, and I know not everyone is the same, but I honestly have seen people take a resume, like scan it, and then like talk. So it's like sometimes it behooves you to be short and powerful in one. That doesn't mean that, exactly like you said, you can't. But I mean, if they're really going to scan it, you might as well make your big point so that when you scan it, that's what pops out. And
Totally.
then us, you know.
Totally. You want it to be really powerful statements. And I think sometimes we forget that powerful statements don't have to be necessarily long, because there's a lot of people who are like every detail, and it's like, that's not necessarily powerful. Keeping it short and concise is definitely more critical to getting employment. Yeah.
Short and sweet and powerful, right?
Yeah. So I know that Kathryn just went through kind of this whole job search process, and we worked together through the whole thing. And I know that a lot of people come to me and ask questions about like, okay, what are the steps in actually applying, and like, how do I start? Where do I go? What does it look like? And kind of interviewing, juggling. And I would love to kind of talk a little bit about that, because I know Kathryn literally just went through it. And sorry, I'm like taking over your live, but this is
why y'all are here.
all of the steps. What are the steps to take for jobs and stuff? So I think, Kathryn, if you could kind of elaborate on that, I know that would help a lot of my followers out.
Sure. So I guess the first decision is just like thinking about what you're looking for in a job, like thinking about your values and what your lifestyle want, like the lifestyle you want to have, and then kind of matching and looking for different places that fit that. So like something that I did that was sounds really silly is like I looked really far into the way that websites presented their clinics, because I was looking for clinics at this point. And if it was like super serious and I don't know, like structured, I was like, ooh, this might not be a good fit for me, because I want something fun and like, you know, something that values play and teamwork and collaboration with families and stuff. So when I was searching, that was like kind of the vibes I was going for. So that was the first step that I took, was figuring out what matched me, I guess. And so Demi, like for more direction, what do you specifically want me to touch on?
So a lot of my questions that I get is like, what are the steps after you've kind of found some places you want to work for? What is like the turnaround time between interviewing and submitting your application? I know everyone's going to be a little bit different, but if you can kind of talk about your story a little bit, I think that might be helpful.
Yeah. So I started, I think I heard back from clinics within a couple of weeks. It depended on, it was like 1 to 2 weeks. And then one of them, our timing didn't line up too well. And they were like, email us back in a month. And I emailed them back and then I didn't hear from them again. So that's going to happen. You're not going to hear back in 2 weeks from everyone that you talk to. And you just know that, like, that's not a good fit then. So, or maybe they weren't looking anymore or something like that. So then at that time, they emailed me about setting up interviews, and all of my interviews were virtual. And those happened within a couple of days to a week, I would say.
So from the
pretty fast turnaround.
I don't want to interrupt you, but like, so from the time that you actually submitted all of your kind of email inquiries and reached out to people, it was about a month from when the time that you got a job, or from the time that you started to a time that you actually got an offer? Is that kind of what I'm adding up? Okay.
Yeah, I would say, because some of them had more than one interview. Yeah. So there were like a week between interviews too.
Okay. And that's kind of what I've had in the past too, is about a month from when you start applying to when you actually get job offers. And that's all variable, but I think a month is kind of a good turnaround time to kind of gauge it. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really accurate.
And now, Kathryn, another thing that my followers kind of talk about is like, or ask a lot about, is like, what are some specific things that are helpful when you are interviewing, like for tips? Because I have a lot of tips, but I want to know, because you've taken we've talked all the time, but which ones actually like stood out to you as being like the most powerful ones and the ones that you use the most?
So the thing that helped me the most is because I am like more of an anxious type interviewer usually, but what you helped me see is like having a conversation that it's not only them figuring you out, but you're figuring them out. So thinking of it more as a mutual thing instead of you being on the spotlight was super helpful to me. That, and just like showing who you are as a clinician, as a coworker, as an employee. So like you're fun, but you're knowledgeable and you're serious and you're passionate, like just showing all of those things about you so that they can see what working with you is going to be like and want you to be a part of their team.
Okay. I'm glad that was helpful. Yeah.
Super helpful.
I always wonder, like, so there's certain ones that people say they stick with, and that's definitely one. I was always curious, and my followers are always asking, like, what's the number one tip you can give me for interviewing? And I'm always curious. I'm like, I don't know. I have a lot of them.
Yeah, mindset's huge.
Yeah, there it is. It's all about the mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna throw one in there that I mean, I don't probably get asked as frequently as you because I don't work with people as frequently, but the infamous "tell me about yourself" question. I feel like we could all probably give our 2 cents on that, but I'll let y'all start because y'all are my, I'm here to listen to it.
So this is one that definitely comes up every single interview prep session. My advice is to always say your name unless they say it literally right before, because I've actually been on the other side and I've been interviewing people and I've been in a group of interviewers and we don't necessarily have the resume in front of us, so we don't know who we're interviewing. And then we're like, oh, okay, who was that? Yep. So always say your name unless they say it for you. Hi, my name is this. And then you always start with, thank you for your consideration. I'm so excited to be here. This is such a great opportunity. And I'm really excited to get to know all of you. And then you can kind of go into maybe like a general outline of your education and your background. So I went to undergrad at Elmhurst College and I went to graduate school at Pampa. Oops.
Sorry.
And then I worked in both a private practice and a middle school while I was in St. Louis, and I recently moved back to start working in a private practice. That's kind of just a general summary. You can also throw in maybe types of like disorders and treatment methods you're really interested in. That's a kind of good one to bridge, or why you want to be or why you went into speech pathology, if that's a good story. Just don't cry. Yeah. There's some sad stories as to why people went into speech pathology, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You don't want to like make the interviewer cry. So don't do that. But that's kind of my tip for tell me about yourself. It should be short and brief and to the point. They're going to go into a lot more detail with things they want to know about you. So you don't have to give them your whole life story in that little shtick. No. Any other tips for you? Like, do you guys have any other like things that you do when you answer that question?
That kind of covered it. Something that also helped me is that question of where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh.
That's like the worst question because you don't really know what they're looking for, but you helped me a lot with this, Demi. So
this is such a good, I love this question because I hate this question because I feel like it's such a way to like find out, especially because there's a lot of women in this field. I think it's a good way for employers to kind of see, oh, are you gonna have a family? Oh, are you moving away? Oh, are you engaged? Are you married? Oh, okay. Because some people do elaborate on their personal lives in that 5-year question. And that's totally fair. Like, I mean, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't know, planning to have kids and whatever. But what that's basically doing is allowing that employer to gauge out how long you are planning to be at their company. And that's not fair to them or it's not fair to you to basically hurt your chances of working there because you want to have a family. And I'm not saying all employers do this by any means. I'm just saying that this is kind of, it's like a little like digging question. So what I tell my clients is to answer with what area you want to specialize in. So you keep it super professional. In 5 years, I really want to specialize in dyslexia and understanding the relationship between language disorders and dyslexia and phonological processing. Or I want to understand natural language acquisition. And those are just two things that I'm really passionate about. So that's what comes to my mind. But talk about an area you want to specialize in. We have 9 different facets of speech and language pathology. I don't even know anymore. I feel like it keeps adding one every year. So like specializing in one of those is going to be super powerful to an employer because they're going to be like, oh, that means a lot of clients that have this will come to us because we have this, So specializing is a really great way to answer that question. I hope that was, yeah.
I think those questions, like the 5-year question and the tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Because you think it's like direct questions, but they're really asking something else. And there are quite a few questions, like that. Like for me, when I learned the tell me about yourself question, it's like they don't want to know that story. They want to know who are you, and then make 3 points. Why are you going to be a valuable asset to me? That's
yeah.
It's like, and it's usually the first question. So if you make that like powerful statement, that's how you catch them. And then, all the other questions sometimes are framed around what you just presented as yourself. And then the same thing, like what you just said about the 5-year thing.
Yeah.
Like are you going to stick with us? Are you going to, and so I like that sometimes when you can't give answers like that, because who can really tell, right? No one has a crystal ball. So we all have those round the door, but still very powerful, accurate.
Yep. Yeah. And those don't have to stay true. Like so when I started this job that I'm currently in, I loved middle school. I don't know why, but I loved those little middle schoolers. They were so interesting and awkward and kind of mean sometimes, but it kept me challenged. So it was fun. Now I'm loving early intervention. And I think it's like the 2-3-year-olds, those are my jam. I didn't realize how much I loved play. So those 5-year plans can change. And I started working with Meaningful Speech. Alex over at Meaningful Speech, go check her out because she's amazing. Plug. But she has taught me so much about natural language acquisition and echolalia. And I feel like that's an area I definitely want to continue to specialize in because it's so needed for so many different kids. So that answer can definitely change over time. Don't feel like, oh my God, I said that at the interview, I have to stick with it. And that's not true. The other kind of question like that we talk about a lot is like the weaknesses question. Yeah. So how have you guys handled that in the past? I'm kind of curious, and then I'll kind of give my little shtick. But
do you want to go, Callie?
Go for it, and then I'll go.
So I think the way I used to frame it is basically that I overwork because I'm a workaholic type. So I'll be like, oh, I overdo things is my biggest weakness. And then I talk to you.
No, we don't do that anymore.
Nope, we don't do that anymore.
No. Callie, how do you answer? Or sorry, Kathryn.
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Callie, go ahead.
Oh, we're asking now.
Yeah, sorry.
The way I learned it, because my undergrad, right before we went into grad school, they had a little on interviewing. And that was one of the things they talked about. They were like, we're going to ask you if you come to our, school, what is a weakness? But what we're really asking you is tell us about a weakness, because we all have weaknesses, but it's a but question. So it could be like, I overwork, but I'm working on this. And I overwork because I'm passionate and dedicated, but I realized that, I need to draw boundaries, and this is what I've been doing to overcome it. And I'm excited that I'm seeing progress, but I still have to be, consciously about it. So it's like the but question. It's I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah. But
this is what you're grown. This is why I'm valuable to you, because I have this weakness.
Totally. Okay, so both of your answers, great. I've actually asked probably 25 employers at this point what they want to know from this answer. And I've done a lot of research on this question because I don't want to steer people in the wrong direction. But my biggest piece of advice when answering this question is to be, one, super honest. So Callie, kind of like you mentioned, be honest and be truthful, because everybody has a weakness. And I think sometimes we forget that in an interview, like Kathryn said, they're looking to hire us, but we're also looking at them. And we want to make sure that they can support our areas of need and our areas of development that maybe we aren't as strong at. And we want to make sure that they have the tools there to bring us to the best possible SLP that you can be. So be honest. And then always follow up with like 2 or 3 things that you're doing to improve that skill, that you're aware of it. So for me, I am the most scatterbrained person in the world. It literally takes, I have 1,500 tabs open at all times. Like, it's so hard for me to stay. I have the worst ADHD. It's horrible. So that's why I relate to my middle schoolers, because I'm like, hey guys, want to go outside? We can walk around and look at the birds. Oh wait, we have to work. Sorry. That's why I love middle school. But I always have a hard time kind of getting tasks done in a timely manner. With my business, that's obviously changed a lot because I don't have anybody to answer to. Like, I have to answer to my clients. Like, that scares me. I don't like that. So I like to be really prompt and make sure that I get things done in a timely fashion. But how I've improved the skill is by only opening a tab per task, and once I finish that task, I can close that tab and I can open a new one. I also make sure my calendar is really up to date, and I try really hard to make sure that everything's in there so that I know exactly how much time I have for each activity. And that's how I would answer that question, is kind of make it a little bit of a joke too. Like, think people in interviews think you can't like even show like a little funny side of you or like kind of show your personality. You can. It's okay. You can kind of make a joke. It's okay. I wouldn't be like pretending like I had a mic in my hand and a brick background, but you can just make a few little sarcastic, not sarcastic, but you know what I mean, like jokes. But answering those questions with a true weakness and then maybe follow up with 2 ways that you are improving those skills. That was a really long-winded question. I'm the one that's supposed to be short and concise. What's wrong with me today? I'm making too much coffee.
A lot of information that's necessary. So
the bird story probably wasn't, but I just threw it in there. I don't know. It's Saturday. Yeah.
personality and throw in random things as long as you don't go talking about the species of bird and where they live or
exactly
found a bird. That's
exactly.
But that's also so relevant to interviews and stuff, like because you want to show who you are and connect with people because people remember how you made them feel in that interview. So and
exactly.
Like, yeah. So
the other thing I wanted to mention too is what Kathryn said. People always talk about, oh, I overwork, I say yes to everything. That's a huge weakness in our field. We need to stop saying that. Hands down, that should never, ever, 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 ever be said in an interview ever. And because when you say that in an interview, you are setting the expectation that you're the person who is going to say yes to everything.
Yeah, I remember Demi goes, Kathryn, don't be the girl with no boundaries.
No.
They'll be like, we like this kind of person because we can keep paying you this much, but you're going to do
yes,
that much.
Exactly. And nobody is going to not hire you because you're not necessarily the yes person. You can still be the yes person. You just don't need to make it loud and proud right off the bat. I don't want you guys to be the yes people unless you're getting paid extra to be the yes people. And that needs to be a boundary that needs to be drawn. But do not say that in an interview ever, 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 ever. Sorry. Okay. Done.
I'm going to put in a because people listening are probably like, well, of course I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
It goes back to like practicing, right? Because if you just go into an interview, it's like high stakes, high emotion, even if you don't think it is, inside of you it is. And sometimes things come out that you didn't think maybe would. It could be something like that, right? Like, oh, I overwork. And then you might think, probably shouldn't have said that. So, and I mean, even when you practice, sometimes things like that happen. But I think it's putting in a plug for practicing beforehand, whether it's with someone else that can give you feedback, or even I just would sit in a mirror and talk to myself for hours. I would just talk to myself.
Yeah. And even if you guys need, like, this is totally a plug for my service, but if you guys need interview prepping, like, that's part of my job and I love doing it. I've done over, I think, 125 interview prep sessions at this point. I'm really good at it. I make people feel really confident about themselves and their work. I just had a person yesterday be like, I just felt so good in my interview. I can't believe I never felt so good in an interview. So reach out to me. I'm happy to help. I love doing it. And you can see, obviously, I'm very passionate about it. And so I'd love to help if you guys need extra help with interview prep. Total plug. But
no, she's good at it.
I told you full on when I invited you. If you feel confident giving plugs for yourself, I'm all about people giving plugs for things they can.
It's part of the territory. Yeah. And I want people to know about the service because I think it's really helpful. And I think people don't necessarily, I need to get better about like sharing the things that I do in my services, but interview prep is definitely one of them. And I'd probably say between that and the resumes, obviously, I'd say like interview prep is probably more helpful even. They really just make you feel more confident as a person, not just in interviewing, but just in life general. And I give you a lot of really great evidence-based, because I love SLPs, that they love evidence-based strategies to use, not only in interviewing, but in your everyday life to feel more confident in every situation. I think that's a huge part of why we get undervalued is because we're not confident in ourselves. So let's get some confidence in this world of SLP.
Yes. Kathryn, I feel like you told me like that was exactly how you felt, right? These past few times that you just had this confidence that you didn't, or that it was like enjoyable. Is that what you
yeah.
enjoyable to interview.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I started working, I actually made myself go on at least an interview a year to practice, and in case there was, because like I said, I get really anxious, and I wanted to kind of desensitize to that. And I was okay at interviewing minus that weakness question. Um, but I didn't enjoy it at all. And like when you feel confident about how you're presenting yourself and feeling like you are showing what you can offer, I don't know, it just makes it a lot better. And then you can focus more on connecting with other people, which of course that's what we thrive off of as humans, and as SLPs we love that interaction and getting to talk about the thing you're passionate about with new people. Is it can be fun if you are feeling, confident about it. So I really enjoyed the last few interviews I did.
Okay. That makes my heart happy.
Me happy to hear, just as a listener. It makes Demi happy to hear, because I know you both so closely this last time.
Yeah.
Yes, that was great.
Yeah.
Okay, unless there's another point that you're thinking about right now in your head, I think we've touched quite a bit on interviews. And anyone here randomly comments and throws in a question about interviewing, we'll tackle it. But if not, let's just say we had a rockin' interview. Someone listened to this live or talked to Demi or Kathryn and just rocked their interview. Now they're waiting on like an offer, and they're like, oh shoot, now I've got to negotiate something.
Yeah.
And that can of worms, that was the other thing. People wanted to know how to be confident interviewing, and then they're like, I need to know my worth so that I can negotiate. Oh, and I don't know how to negotiate. Give me
So I actually just created a template for job negotiating for both CFs and for professional SLPs. I made 2 different ones because I think CFs have to highlight different skills than professional SLPs, because professional SLPs have years and experience, where CFs don't necessarily have those years of experience. But like I mentioned before, there's other things that you can talk about to make yourself more valuable and get a better job offer. The other thing is you need to research what your average going rate is for SLPs in the area. There is a link. There is a website that Speech Goods, Danny at Speech Goods gave me, because she's amazing. And I was like, thank you. It's in my template, but it's also on one of my slides for how to build your case. That latest post about how to build your case. So go check that out. I need to like go look at it, but I can't. So but go find your worth. So once you've gotten the job offer, go find out how much you should be making. And then if the offer is kind of in that ballpark, it still does not hurt to ask for more. It can never really hurt your chances. I did a poll a few weeks ago, and I need to post those results. But I was kind of going to make a post of it. But nobody has actually lost a job because of negotiating. So I want that to be really clear, that nobody has ever lost, well, not nobody ever, but I'm sure there's going to be one person that's like, I did, but in general, more people have actually gotten more money and better benefits than losing a position. And if they don't want to negotiate with you and they're not going to hire you, do you really want that position anyway?
Well, no, you don't. I'm agreeing with you. No, you don't.
No, you don't want that. You don't want to work there. You can find something better. But those are kind of my things. So outlining your case, building your case, making sure that you are listing accomplishments, awards, volunteer experience, related experience, even people who are in graduate school. If I know I nannied throughout the whole time that I was in grad school, I'm using that as part of my negotiation. I have experience with every stage of language development from nannying. Like, I got to literally watch children grow up. So use that experience. You don't have to say, oh, I babysat and I did arts and crafts with them. No, you can outline what you learned from those experiences. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And that's all outlined in my job negotiating email template. Yeah.
I agree with what you said. And this is like, perhaps more of a principle, right? Where there's a difference between someone saying, I babysat for 2 years I babysat for 2 years and this is what I learned. You know, like I watched language development, I did ABCD. The I babysat for 2 years holds little value, whereas I babysat for 2 years and or nannied for 2 years, and that's what they want to see. They don't even really care probably that you babysat. They want the and what did you learn from your experience.
No, side tip, I always say childcare provider in resumes instead of babysitter. So if you are putting babysitter on, I put childcare provider instead. It's a little more professional, and I think it adds a little more value to the position because that's what you did. You provided care for these children and you helped with language development and speech development and all that stuff. So side note, but yes, back to negotiating.
We're here for all tips and tricks. So
wait, say that one more time.
I said we're here for all the tips and tricks.
Oh, yeah.
Like that can make a big difference. Babysitter
Yeah.
could be like kind of like a turnoff for someone reading something versus like a childcare provider. They might be like, wow. So that like that is actually quite so.
I have a lot of those. I have like, I'm bringing new people onto my team as we speak. Like I'm trying, SLP resume is growing, and I don't think people realize all the tips and tricks and information that goes into these resumes that I've collected over the last 2 years when doing this. And literally hundreds of tips like that go into these resumes. So it's a lot. And it's not something you guys are all expected to know. This is literally my career at this point. So I have a lot of information that maybe isn't available online, but can really help improve your resume. So if you ever need help, reach out. I'm happy to help.
And then we can swing back to negotiating because now we hit that on the head, and people, if you're taking notes, then have that in your toolkit.
Yeah, negotiating is really challenging, and I think I've kind of postponed. I know every time I do a question box, people always ask about negotiating, and I kind of postponed doing any posts about it because it's such a tricky subject and it's so different for each job. So I'm really trying to find the top information that I can for you guys and really relate it not only to speech and language pathology, but just life in general and to negotiating in general, because not everybody's necessarily applying for an SLP job. You could be applying as an undergrad to an ABA job, or you could be applying to a paraprofessional position, whatever it is. Under that tier, I want it to be very specific for anybody in the helping profession that might need a little extra confidence in negotiating.
And I think like your past like 3 or 4 posts you posted are on negotiating, or maybe what, you know, some things to do and some things not to do. So I mean, we could talk about that for hours. So I might just, unless you have certain points you want to come in, I'm going to refer people to your page because they're really good posts for general overall principles.
I have 2 more coming, you guys, and then I'll be done with negotiating for a bit because I feel like it's probably like hitting a nail on the head at this point. Like it's done. But there's 2 more coming, and then if you guys have more questions about negotiating, you can always reach out.
I think one of the big things with negotiating is it feels really uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. But like something that I told myself when I was so this is not the job that I took, but a job that I did a lot of negotiating with and then ultimately turned down. It was so uncomfortable for me to ask for more money, but I was like, is it going to be more uncomfortable in the moment to ask, or is it going to be more uncomfortable to be working for less than I should be making for a long period of time? It's like so much quicker just to get it out there. It's worth it.
And Kathryn, I know we went through this journey together, but I could not be more proud of the decisions that you made to not only stick true to what you wanted for yourself, but also to stick true to what you wanted to be as a therapist. I know you made some really tough choices, and I know that they're going to pay off, especially because now you work with me, which is wonderful.
So great.
But I really do. Every time I have somebody who kind of made those tough decisions, I think it's something to be celebrated because you stood true to who you are and you stood true to your beliefs. And I think that's amazing. And it's so hard to do in this field for sure.
Yeah, I can kind of talk a teeny bit about that. Like, so I got a job offer and it was quite a bit lower than really was like average for our area and for my years of experience. So Demi helped me with outlining like, this is why I feel that I should be earning this much. And they came back and they're like, okay, well, we can talk about that in 30 days after you accept the job. And I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. So a couple of days go by, they emailed me again. They said, what you're asking for is what we offer our leads. We will fast track you to a lead if you take the position, and then we will talk about the pay increase. And I was like, I like leadership, I like the clinic, but it just, the whole thing just did not feel right. So I had to, and I called Demi, and she's like, what do you want out of your career? And what is going to be the most fulfilling to you? And like, you have to think about it mutually too. I know I could give a lot as a lead clinician, but what am I going to get as a clinician? How am I going to grow clinically and professionally? Are they going to support me in what I want to pursue? And that's what we ended up. Demi helped me with that a ton. So just some things to think about if you get these random offers in place of pay. Yeah.
And like, it's okay to prioritize your pay too. Like people always say like, oh, I want to, but it's okay to like, you worked your butt off. You can prioritize getting paid the right salary and getting paid appropriately. Sorry, Kelly, I didn't know I mean to cut you off.
I agree. I think something else that I think Kathryn talked about in the beginning, something she learned was, or that she did in her process, was get a feel for the employer. I feel like sometimes when they're not transparent, and I'm not saying they have to say no or yes, they could be professional and say we can't guarantee that right now.
Right.
That's more transparent. It sounds a little fishy to me to say, well, we'll talk about that later, because you're hooked into a contract, and at that point you're at their disposal. They get to do whatever they want with you. And so for me, that point that you brought up earlier, Kathryn, with putting out feelers, for me, that would be a turnoff for an employer that's like, well, we'll talk about that later. They're not up. And I don't need a yes or no, but if you can't guarantee that, I need you to say, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you started, like in some jobs too, you're building up your caseload. And then you also have to find out, are you in charge of building up your caseload, or are they going to get the clients for you? Because that's another thing that they're like, okay, you could do free screenings to get people in. And I was like, that could take some time too. So you have to look at your money situation that way also, what they're going to provide for you.
Yeah, I think what Kathryn did with balance between finances and where you're actually going to feel like you're going to grow as a therapist is a very brave thing to do. And I think you're going to be a great role model for hopefully these people, hopefully these young SLPs who are listening, because that's really probably one of the most courageous things you can do at this point in your career, is like take a chance on yourself and your skills, and you're going to do so good. I mean, you're already so loved at work and stuff. So yeah.
It's been great. Yeah. Everything works out.
It does.
I love this. And see, this is why I was like, obviously Demi is the guru on all things like resumes and interview prep and negotiating, but just Kathryn, being my friend, has shared with me some of her journey and process. And then when I learned that y'all, I was like, well, why wouldn't I have them both on for a big
It's so fun.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is so fun. I love Instagram lives. I need to start learning how to do them because I'm technologically challenged. But
you want to see, it's easy to start it, but you trying to not make silly, weird faces while you're trying to participants. That's
good to know.
Why the 30 seconds of every live are completely awkward, and I wish their previews would start at like 3 minutes.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I've gotten like my second master's degree at trying to like understand Instagram and technology at this point. So for all of you young SLPs, use that on your resumes. Like if you have experience with social media, talk about that on your resume. I worked with an SLP who has a pretty large following, and I'm not going to say who it is because I don't know if she's comfortable with that, but she didn't have anything about her social media page on her resume. And I was like, what are you like, companies are so hungry for social media right now. And I think if you have the ability to grow a social media account and help get more clients through Instagram and Facebook, companies, especially small private practices, that's going to be so valuable to them. But don't do it for free. Do it for pay. Get paid to do that if you're going to do that. But add that to your resume. I think that's a great thing to do, and talk about it in your interview.
Absolutely. I'm going to add something because I got this question and we slightly touched on it on my last live, but I think there are new people here today that may not have seen that other one. So we can discuss this. Someone had asked about negotiating pay and other things in a school-based setting where you're contracted through the district versus the, a clinic or outpatient, because it is a little bit different.
Okay.
And I'm sure we can all put in.
So are you talking about like contractors? Sorry, I like kind of I'm hold on. Let me get a better grasp.
So essentially was most school-based SLPs, especially if you're like employed through the district, they have already what they're going to offer you. Like, it's public record.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
People were like, what if that's like crazy low? Can I just not work there? Is there like a possible way to negotiate in a school-based setting where a lot of other settings, right, they don't necessarily say, here's public record, this is what you'll make. You end up kind of negotiating it.
Yeah, totally. And I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. School districts are a little tougher to negotiate with, but it's not impossible. So, oh, okay, cool. So a person just asked, Bridget, I think, I'm hoping to transition from agency school to district to medical. I'm also a newer SLP and haven't negotiated salary. Okay, well, first, Bridget, go check out my negotiating template. But two, schools tend to have a set salary range, but I have had people actually get a higher number of years or a different level of hours, even though they might not necessarily have those hours, because the school districts are desperate right now, you guys. You have no idea the power that you have. You have so much, like, they need you, okay? And if you accept a job that's lower than like the average salary for the United States, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're hurting our whole profession. So always ask, like, hey, I have master's plus 15, but I think that with my knowledge and my ability to start right away, I could do master's plus 30. And I hope that you guys are interested, or even starting me at year 5 pay scale. I think that would be a great, mediator between those two things. School districts have said yes, so it's not impossible. It's happened. I have a friend, a very close friend of mine, who just last year renegotiated her whole contract with her school district. She's a teacher, but she still negotiated with the school district and got a higher pay scale. It's not impossible. In terms of medical, their stuff's very similar. There's scales for each type of therapist or whatever, or it's based on insurance. So, yes, because as medical. So the question is there a discrepancy between school districts versus medical pay? Pretty big. Yes, in some areas, and no in other areas. It depends on the insurance paybacks. So for example, we live in Illinois, so there's a few insurance companies that pay higher than other ones. So if your hospital works with only a few different insurance companies, or your outpatient setting works with a few insurance companies, they might have a higher payout than other insurance companies. So your salary might be able to go up. So do your research on that too, because that's a good piece of knowledge to have. And I'm going to actually do a post on that, because that's a really good thing, is kind of figuring out what insurance companies are higher in other areas, so that you know for a fact that you can ask for more money versus, and they can't say, oh, well, sorry, we can't because of insurance. You're like, oh, no, you guys have high payouts, so you can. But yes, there's a big discrepancy between pay, just because school districts usually work 180 days a year, and then med obviously works the whole 350. So is there 350 days in a year? No,
365.
Holy cow!
Days.
God, today. Again, today.
We have a comment here that says, yes, negotiate with school districts. I did it successfully. I'm going to say two things. One, if you want to share your experience and like somehow get your quick fingers out and type in the comments, if you want to share anything that you did that was helpful, we'll read it out to everyone. And meanwhile, if you are doing that, I'll give a couple of things that, because I'm school-based and have always been through the district, and some districts are just going to say no. And it's this, yeah, like if they're just going to say no and you're not okay with it, sometimes you just have to walk. And I know that's not something everyone can do, but if you can.
You can also ask for other things too. Like you can ask for more vacation days or a better benefits plan. So maybe they won't actually say no to money, but you can ask for other things too. And they might say no to that too, but there's other things other than money that you can ask for too.
Exactly.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're totally right. Because I mean, a lot of schools have it, based on experience, right? Or sometimes they have like a low, mid, high. And in those low, midpoint, high, you have a little bit more flexibility with negotiation because they don't say there's this much money.
Yeah.
But most pay scales are based on years. And if you can convince the school district, I shouldn't say convince, persuade, right? We're all about being professional and
right.
A lot of school districts will be like, I'm only going to count the experience you have in school. And so there's that you can say, but I did this, or, some people will say, I want you to respect and to look at my graduate school externships or internships because they were full-time, they were working. Some school districts will say, okay, some will say, no. Sometimes you have to fight them on it. No, it really is full-time, it's this and that, and then they'll finally say, yes. But you've got to like push because their gut is going to no. But you have to push, and that's usually when they might do something. Something else I've done is stipends. They may not be able to change their base.
Yes, stipends.
Stipend is like the free-for-all. They can make a for anything they want. So, for example, me, they didn't have a different pay scale for bilingual speech language pathologists. And I said, I have an advanced certification. I have the documentation. I have all the schooling. I want a stipend for being bilingual. And they came back and gave me $4,000. So I probably shouldn't have said that, but.
No, that's what this is for, is that this is negotiation or salary transparency. I think that's a big part of negotiating. So we're talking about, sorry, I'm like reading these comments too, but like we're talking about how to negotiate in a school district. And I think Callie just made a great point. It's like stipends are the key to a successful negotiation in the school district. They are free-for-alls. You are so spot on. Or even just like getting they can pay for your ASHA certification. That's $200 or $250, what is up to, like $250 a year. They can pay for materials. How much money would you save if you didn't have to pay for all your own materials?
I asked one of my schools to pay for me to go to ASHA that year, and they said yes. Because they needed someone. See? So I mean, like, and it's they're not, here's the thing, they're not, okay, not everyone, again, we're not talking absolutes, but most people aren't going to offer you anything additional than this base pay.
Yeah.
But the worst they can say to anything you ask is no. Don't like ask and set like crazy things that no one's going to say yes to, but it never hurts to ask things that are feasible, because the worst they can say is no. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how many times they might say, okay.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I think sometimes getting creative with these negotiation deals is how you're going to get more out of the school district. So maybe it's not necessarily direct money in your pocket, but if they're paying for you to go to ASHA, or if they're paying for you to take a really cool course, prompt course, or and now I think like an SOS or whatever it is. That's money in your pocket that you didn't have to spend. I know the school district that I work for paid for me to get my Wilson certification. So if you guys don't know what that is, that's basically a whole reading program for kids with dyslexia. And that was $3,000 that they spent for me to get that training. So maybe it's not necessarily money in your pocket right off the bat, but you can ask for other things that are going to increase your value maybe out in the future when you don't want to work for schools anymore, or just increase your value overall if you want to, work for somewhere else. Yeah.
Also, like materials budgets are huge.
Huge. Yeah.
those things stack up real quick.
I will say I just started getting speech cubes, and for me personally, like that has been such a great way to kind of expand my materials without spending a fortune every month. It's cool, it's fun, new things. If you guys haven't heard about speech cubes, go check them out. They're wonderful. But they have been so great for kind of infusing new things into my material section without going crazy with like money, because it's really easy to spend a couple $100 on new toys because I want to play with them. You shouldn't be doing that. So
Yeah,
kind of
speech cube and speech tree mini objects.
yes,
Amazing.
speech tree is also great. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. No, not necessarily. So the question is, I haven't heard that you're paid low in the schools, right? No, not necessarily true. You are paid for your time. Wait, sorry, now the questions are
They're coming quick.
They're coming in fast. But no,
I
you're
don't
not
see
necessarily
them.
paid low in the schools. It just depends on your area. So I told them I didn't want to work. So the comment is, I told them I did want to work for them. So they asked their admin to offer me my full 22 years of experience. I'm not really sure.
Oh, that was the person that I was saying, tell us how you negotiate getting more. So she moved to a new area with 22 years experience, and they offered her only 12 years on the pay scale. She said, I can't live with that. And so they must have come back to offer that full 22. And that's a big jump.
That's huge.
On a school scale, that's a big jump.
And I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys and with the listeners. Don't ever say that you need the money to live. It doesn't make you seem desperate, but it doesn't really make you seem like you're confident in yourselves and your skills. It makes it seem like you need that, but you should more be like, I want that money because I am who I am. Not, I need that money to, feed my family or whatever it is, which totally valid, but you don't need to tell your employer that necessarily. That's something that I'm reading a lot about, is like when you are a new SLP or when you are a new candidate, you should avoid saying, I need this money to pay my loans. I need this money to do this. No, you should be paying me this money because I have these things. So that's kind of what the mindset should be from negotiating standpoints.
Right.
Not that you did anything wrong by saying that you need the money, but I'm just saying in the future, a little tip, just try to avoid that, to avoid.
Yeah, because sometimes they do ask you why. Like if you turn down a job, they'll say, why did you turn it down? So you might want to have that really good, strong reason ready so they come back.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, I've had people in the past say no to jobs after negotiating. And the people have actually come back and said, okay, we didn't realize you were actually going to walk away. We'd like to offer you the negotiation. So that's a real thing that has happened before, and it could happen to you. So as scary as it is to say no, say no. There's going to be other positions. And if we take things that are less than what we deserve, then you're setting the standard for the next person to take even less and less and less. And that's why some of us are making $25 an hour right now. That's crazy. We need to get higher. Yes.
I see this question. Do we touch this one? How should you respond if an interviewer asks you if you've already gotten other offers?
You can say you're keeping your options open, and at this point, I'm also interviewing for other positions, and I'm just making sure that the best I'm choosing the position that's best for me. So you don't have to say you necessarily have other offers, but you can just say I'm keeping my options open.
That's exactly what I always say. I'm like, really, it isn't their business, but sometimes it does give you leverage, but you probably don't want to say more than I'm considering my options. Done.
Yeah. Easy. Keep it simple, short, sweet, to the point.
I skipped one up. Oh, it was a comment when someone said, yes, salary transparency. Now, plug for the other live. Absolutely, yes. The one thing you have to be a little bit careful about in public things is that you might say in your contract, you might say that you can impose your specific amount. So I'm all salary transparency because there's no way that we're to make the movement or, in our profession. But I think it might have even been you, Demi. Were you the one that just posted recently, read your contract? I think it was for another purpose,
Yeah.
but read your contract when you sign it.
Mhm.
If you're signing to say, I'm not going to disclose the number, you can do whatever you want, right? But I would be a little bit more careful if that's something you signed in your contract.
The other thing with that too is sometimes when you negotiate, they might change the number that you might get that's higher, but they might take away other things in your contract without telling you. So read through your contract very thoroughly after each step of negotiating with them and make sure that it's exactly what you had bargained for and what you negotiated, because that's happened too. Companies can be sketchy and take away maybe a vacation day to increase your pay, or reduce your benefits and increase your pay. So just be very wary and make sure that everything that you discuss is in the contract exactly the way you discussed it. And that's why I like to do emails personally, because then everything's written. You don't have to there's mixed reviews whether it's better to negotiate in person and through email. Personally, I think email is best in this day and age because it's all in black and white, baby. There's no oh, did you say that? Oh, that's confusing. Just email. I think that's probably the best. But that being said, you guys, I am so sorry, but I have a client at 11 o'clock, so I have to get going.
Yeah.
I know, but if you guys have any other questions, you can find me at SLP Resume. You can email me at info@slpresume@gmail.com, and then my website is www.slpresume.com. There's a ton of really great products that are specific to each area of where you are in your career. So there's all types of different templates you can use. There's a personal statement workbook, all kinds of stuff. And resumes, interview, you know I'm your girl. So call me, text me, DM me, whatever you gotta do. Yeah. Bye, Kathryn. Bye, Kelly. So nice seeing you guys.
Bye, Demi. Bye.
And then I'm just going to say for everyone else real quick, Kathryn, I'm sure Kathryn's just a great person, everyone.
Thanks.
But
Kelly.
Kathryn would be more than willing to help share more of her experience, since obviously you couldn't share everything today. So if anyone happens to be in this position in their life, when they are negotiating, or even if you're at the very beginning, Kathryn would have been great a year ago, but now that she's been through it and it's fresh and she's obviously learned a lot.
Learned a lot.
I think you'd probably be okay if people asked you questions about your experience after this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Send me a message. I'm always happy to talk about it. And because it's something that we all go through, right? So it's nice to hear other people's experiences and what worked for them and what didn't work for them.
Right? Sometimes if we can learn the trial and error from other people, it can save us some on the back end.
For sure. For sure.
And tell them
Thanks so much. Oh, and I'm at Ivy League Language on Instagram.
Alrighty. Thank you for coming, Kathryn.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This was so fun.
All right. Do you have any last things that you want to tell people? Because if not, we'll just end it. But if you want to get in a last plug or word or piece of...
I think we're good. Just if you guys want to talk, like Kelly said, message me and I'd be happy to chat. And believe in yourselves because you're all awesome. And yeah,
Awesome.
Interviewing and stuff does not have to be as stressful as we make it.
Sister. Alrighty.
All right.
Have a good day, Kathryn.
You too. Bye.
Bye.